welcome to today's custom-tailored deep dive. Usually when you want to uncover a really profound, life-altering truth, you sort of expect to be handed this massive 1,000-page leather-bound textbook.
Right, like you expect massive volume.
Exactly.
No.
We tend to assume that if a philosophical concept is going to fundamentally change how we view the world, it needs to be, well, exhaustive, like thoroughly categorized and explained over hundreds of chapters.
Oh, absolutely. But today, we are doing something entirely different. We are extracting a complete world-shaking philosophy out of exactly 9 words.
9 words. It's wild.
It really is. I mean, it's a masterclass in the economy of language. These 9 words carry the gravitational pull of a black hole, honestly.
Yeah.
And our mission for this deep dive is to completely unpack the structural implications of this ultra-short text. Because the goal isn't just to, read a catchy quote and move on.
Right. We're not just reading an inspirational poster here.
Exactly. We are going to analyze its specific vocabulary, look at the underlying science of why it rings so true, and ultimately explore what it demands of you, the listener.
So the source material we were working with today is literally just the title of a piece. It's called The Architecture of Hardship, and it's followed by 2 incredibly potent sentences.
Just 2.
Yeah, just 2 sentences. Nobody remembers easy and do hard things.
That's it.
That is the entire universe we are exploring today.
Okay, let's unpack this because, before we even look at those 2 specific commands, we really have to understand the framework provided by the title itself.
Yeah, the title really sets the rules of engagement for everything that follows. If we focus on that word architecture, we are immediately pulled out of our default relationship with the concept of difficulty.
How so?
Well, think about what architecture actually requires. It implies intentionality.
Right.
Like something that is calculated, blueprinted, and built. A building is not a natural phenomenon, right? It does not happen by accident.
Yeah.
No, of course not. It requires an understanding of physics, of materials. You don't just casually lean a few pieces of drywall together and hope they hold up the roof when a storm comes.
Exactly.
You need concrete foundations. You need load-bearing walls.
Which completely flips how human beings typically view hardship. Because we almost universally view hardship as an unwelcome accident.
Like a random obstacle?
Yeah, exactly. We see it as a random obstacle or a storm that rolls in and ruins our plans, or maybe a ditch we accidentally fall into. But by pairing the words architecture and hardship, the text suggests that difficulty is not just a random tragedy we passively endure.
It's deliberate.
Yes, it can be a designed structure that actually supports us.
Wait, but let me push back on that for a second. Look at the word architecture again. That requires an architect, right?
True.
So is the text seriously suggesting we should actively seek out misery to build this structure? Because finding a storm to stand in just to prove you can take it seems, well, it seems incredibly counterproductive.
Right.
Are we supposed to be designing our own misery?
No, and that's a really important distinction. There is a massive difference between meaningless suffering and deliberate stress.
Okay, that makes sense.
To understand how hardship functions as architecture, we can actually look at a pretty famous experiment from the early 1990s biosphere, too.
Oh, I've heard of this.
Yeah, scientists built this massive, enclosed, perfectly controlled artificial ecosystem in the Arizona desert.
Right, like a giant greenhouse.
Exactly. They planted all these trees inside, and initially the trees grew incredibly fast. The environment was perfectly calibrated.
So they had, what, ideal sunlight, ideal water, ideal soil?
All of it. It was completely easy for them.
But I'm guessing easy didn't really work out for the trees in the long run.
Not at all. They actually collapsed under their own weight before they could even mature.
Wow. Why?
Well, the scientists realized they had forgotten to include a crucial element in the biosphere: wind.
Oh, wow. Wind.
Yeah. In nature, trees are constantly battered by wind. And that constant daily hardship forces the tree to develop what is called stress wood.
Stress wood.
Yeah. The friction of the wind is literally the signal that tells the tree's cells to build denser, stronger internal structures. Without the hardship of the wind, the trees had absolutely no structural integrity.
So the hardship is the architecture.
Exactly. The hardship is the architecture.
That completely changes the paradigm. The wind isn't attacking the tree. It's literally constructing it.
Yes. Beautifully put.
Because without the heavy, dense, difficult materials, whatever you build is just going to blow away anyway.
Which brings us perfectly to the biological framework the author gives us next. The text moves from this broad concept of structural integrity to the very specific lens of human cognition.
Right. The first actual sentence of the text.
Exactly. The first sentence is, nobody remembers easy.
Nobody remembers easy.
Ah.
It's so punchy. But I love the analogy we were discussing earlier about this.
The highway one.
Yeah, the highway one. Because easy is just like driving on a perfectly flat, straight highway in the middle of a desert with the cruise control set to 70.
Oh, totally.
You know, you have your favorite music playing, the temperature is perfect, there is zero traffic, you can drive for like 4 hours,
Yeah.
and then suddenly you snap out of it and you have absolutely no memory of the drive.
Highway hypnosis.
Yeah. Your brain literally deleted the last 4 hours.
Yeah.
It's like it never happened.
Right, because your environment was entirely predictable, which means it required zero adaptation. And from a neurological standpoint, the brain is incredibly greedy.
Greedy for energy.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it accounts for about 2% of your body weight, but it consumes roughly 20% of your daily energy.
Wow. 20%.
Yeah, so because it is such an energy hog,
Oh.
it has evolved to aggressively conserve power whenever possible.
So if there is no threat, no challenge, and no required engagement, the brain essentially just turns off the recording equipment to save battery.
Exactly. When you are driving on that flat, empty highway, your hippocampus, which is the part of the brain responsible for forming new memories, essentially goes into standby mode.
It just powers down.
Yeah. Routine and comfort are highly energy efficient, but they produce no new data. The brain says, I already know how to survive a flat road on a sunny day. I don't need to write this down. Predictability is discarded from the narrative archive.
But contrast that highway with, say, navigating a treacherous, winding mountain pass in the middle of a torrential thunderstorm.
Oh, a completely different experience.
Completely. Your knuckles are white on the steering wheel, you're leaning forward, your heart is just pounding out of your chest. 10 years later, you'll remember every single second of that drive.
You really will.
You'll remember the specific curve where the car hydroplaned for a split second. You remember the struggle.
Because the struggle triggered a massive cascade of chemical alarms. During that thunderstorm, your amygdala, your brain's threat detection center, floods your system with adrenaline and cortisol. And that neurochemical cocktail acts like a massive highlighter for your hippocampus. It tags the event with a biological mandate.
Which is what?
It says, this was difficult, this threatened our baseline, record every single detail of this friction so we know how to survive it next time. Memory requires friction. It requires a departure from the baseline.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate here for a second, though.
Sure.
Because if our brains only log the stressful, high-friction moments, does that mean easy times are entirely worthless? Because I really enjoy a quiet Sunday morning with a cup of coffee, you know. I like a week where no crises happen at work. Are we saying those moments are just garbage time? Are you just wired to only log the struggle?
So that is a crucial distinction, and we really need to look closely at what the text actually says here. What's fascinating is that it doesn't explicitly condemn easy as morally bad or evil.
Okay.
It doesn't say easy is a sin. It simply identifies it as entirely forgettable. A quiet Sunday morning with a cup of coffee is a wonderful moment of rest. And rest is biologically necessary to recover from stress.
Right. You can't just be stressed all the time.
Exactly. But rest does not serve as the load-bearing wall of your identity.
Oh, I see. It's like the furniture inside the house, not the framing of the house itself.
That is a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah.
Yes. The text is stating a law of human nature. If you want a life that leaves an imprint, a life that has a narrative weight to it, you cannot build it out of convenience.
That makes a lot of sense.
Your identity is fundamentally just the sum total of your memories. If easy leaves no memory, then a life dedicated exclusively to convenience is a life that continuously erases itself.
So if easy literally deletes itself from our brains, then the second half of this text isn't just an observation. It's a warning,
It is.
which makes the final sentence feel less like a philosophical quote and more like an emergency protocol.
It absolutely is an emergency protocol. Notice the grammatical shift here. We move from a descriptive statement, nobody remembers easy, which is just, a scientific observation about how the world works, straight into a prescriptive, imperative command. Do hard things. It is a direct call to action that challenges our fundamental biological default.
It's so aggressive. I mean, it's only 3 words, but it demands that you actively rebel against your own instinct to conserve energy.
Exactly.
And it actually makes me think about how physical growth happens in the human body. Like, we always hear the cliche of going to the gym to lift weights.
Sure, the classic gym analogy.
Yeah, but a much more fascinating example of doing hard things is Wolff's law of bone adaptation.
Oh, the microfracture principle.
Yes,
Hmm.
exactly. If you look at astronauts who go up to the International Space Station, they're living in an environment of microgravity. For a human skeleton, zero gravity is the ultimate easy environment.
Right. There is no resistance whatsoever.
None. No heavy impact, no friction.
Mm.
And what happens? Their bones literally begin to dissolve. They lose massive amounts of bone density just by being there.
Because the body is efficient. It realizes the skeleton doesn't need to support heavy loads anymore, so it just stops sending resources to maintain the architecture of the bone.
Exactly. Down here on Earth, every time you walk or run or jump, gravity forces a tiny, almost microscopic bending of your bones.
A microfracture.
Yeah, and that mechanical stress, that hardship, creates a tiny electrical charge inside the bone tissue. It's called the piezoelectric effect.
Right, right.
That electrical charge acts like a flare gun, attracting cells called osteoblasts, which rush in to build more bone density. Without the heavy, jarring impact of gravity, the body has no signal to build. The hardship is literally the signal for growth.
And if we extrapolate Wolff's law from the physical skeleton to the cognitive and emotional self, the implications are just staggering.
How so?
Well, do hard things applies to cognitive load. It applies to emotional vulnerability, to skill acquisition. Every meaningful human endeavor requires the lifting of a heavy weight. The concept of hormesis, the biological phenomenon, where a low dose of a stressor triggers a disproportionately positive adaptation that applies to our minds just as much as our bones.
So if you're listening to this, I really want you to think about your own calendar right now. Think about the architecture you are currently building, or honestly failing to build.
We all have those blind spots.
You do. We all have that one difficult conversation we've been dodging in a relationship because it's just easier to keep the peace.
Even if that piece is totally hollow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's that complex project at work or that new skill we keep putting off because the learning curve is steep and uncomfortable.
Right. We tell ourselves we are just saving ourselves stress. We think we are being efficient, conserving energy like we talked about.
Right.
But if we apply the logic of this text, avoiding those hard things means we are actually just choosing microgravity for our minds.
Oh, wow. We are choosing to let our narrative bones dissolve.
We are.
By constantly seeking the path of least resistance, we're practically guaranteeing that those moments, those days, and those relationships will just fade into the background. We are choosing to remain a blank slate.
And this connects the final command directly back to the beginning. By doing hard things, we are no longer passive victims wandering through a storm just hoping it doesn't destroy us.
Right. We're not just enduring it anymore.
No, we are stepping out into the wind so we can grow stress wood. We are actively engaging in the architecture of hardship.
Yeah.
We are picking up the materials and actively building the memorable, load-bearing structures of our own lives. We become the architects.
It's honestly incredible how much depth is packed into just 9 words. I mean, we started this deep dive expecting to need 1,000 pages to find a world-shifting philosophy. But this tiny excerpt has given us an entirely new, scientifically grounded framework for looking at struggle.
It really has.
So let's quickly recap the journey we've just been on.
Sure. First, we established that hardship isn't just random bad luck. It can be a designed structural reality.
Right.
Without friction, as we saw with the biosphere trees and the astronauts in zero gravity, there is absolutely no structural integrity.
Second, we recognize the neurological truth that easy literally erases itself from our life story.
Right. Highway hypnosis.
Yes. Without the cortisol and adrenaline spikes of a challenge, our hippocampus goes to sleep, and the easy days just vanish without a trace.
They're gone.
And finally, based on that reality, our mandate is to actively choose the difficult path, to do hard things, because the stressor is the actual signal for growth.
It is a complete philosophical system delivered in less time than it takes to take a single breath.
It really is. So as you look at your week ahead, really analyze where you are applying your energy, where you're choosing easy, and allowing your life to fade into a forgettable blur.
That's the real question.
And more importantly, where are you deliberately introducing friction? Where are you actively building your own architecture by doing hard things?
And as you reflect on that, I want to leave you with one final kind of lingering thought to mull over on your own.
Okay, let's hear it.
If it is an absolute biological truth that nobody remembers easy, what happens to the modern human experience as we increasingly use technology to automate our lives and make absolutely everything effortless?
Oh, wow.
I mean, think about it. We have algorithms that curate our media without us even searching. We have apps that deliver our groceries without us moving.
Right, the friction is gone.
Exactly. And now we have AI that writes our correspondence without us thinking. By relentlessly engineering our environments for ultimate frictionless convenience, are we accidentally erasing our own future memories?
Man, that is heavy. Just because a text is short doesn't mean the implications aren't massive. Suddenly those dense, thousand-page tomes in the library seem a lot less heavy than the 9 words we just unpacked today.
They really do.
We'll keep building your architecture, and we'll get you on the next deep dive.